Getting to meet your newborn baby for the first time is always a pleasing feeling for many parents. All you can think of after that is how you just want to hold them in your arms and wonder how well you would take care of them growing up. Well, sometimes the story doesn't always end up this way. In fact, for some, they're usually not met with the kind of news they are expecting. Today's story is about a man who was told that his son would have to live without an arm, and that moment seemed to change everything about him. Also, if you've not done so already, please subscribe to our channel and click that notification bell to get inspired by these real-life stories every day. Now back to the story. Ben Ryan was a psychology lecturer at a university in Wales, while his wife, Kate Smith, was a medical recruitment officer. The two had been married for a while, and they soon were expecting their first child. By March 2015, Kate would deliver their first child, a baby boy which they eventually gave the name Sol. Despite what was a successful delivery, there seemed to be a complication which caused a white blood clot to form in the baby's left arm, and not long after, the baby that had just been delivered had one of his arms amputated just after 10 days, with doctors calling it the best option since they couldn't save the arm. This, of course, was understandably a sad moment for the couple. Ben had always dreamt of having a son and doing things he did as a child with his own son. However, this chance was about to slip right before his eyes because his child would have one arm right from a tender age. Ben then started thinking of ways they could save the baby, and there, he asked the doctors if his baby could get a prosthetic arm. The response he got came out negative, as doctors told him that his baby would only be fit for a plastic prosthetic arm after a year, and also an electric arm, which would be movable, could only come in when he was 3. This didn't sound like something Ben was prepared for. He did his research and confirmed what the doctors had told him, and he even went further to discover that there was a very huge chance that Sol would reject the prosthetic limb by the time he was 3. This didn't sound right to Ben, and at that point he contemplated developing a bionic arm for his child all by himself. The interesting thing about his idea was that he was a psychology lecturer and had no engineering experience, and as such, developing a bionic arm would seem like a really difficult thing to do. However, Ben was keen on the idea. He was not prepared to let Sol live without an arm. He wanted his son to be able to do the things he did as a child with his 2 arms, and he just wanted to give his son a chance at having both hands. Ben said, quote, "Sol was our first baby, so to be told that he had to have his arm amputated at 10 days old was terrible. We were in a very black place. I kept thinking he would never be able to box or play guitar, all the things I had done as a kid. The doctor said it would be a year before he could be fitted with a passive prosthetic limb. Then he would have to be 3 or 4 before he could have an electric one that he could control. For me, that was just not good enough. I thought I could do better for my son," unquote. Just then, he started work on his bionic arm and even had to quit his job as a lecturer to focus on his newly found obsession to give his son a new arm. It didn't take long for him to develop a prototype which was inspired by spiders. According to Ben, the legs of spiders move using hydraulics, and all he did was devise a simple fluid pressure pad which would be squashed by Sol's elbow bone, and then the fluid would get sent down a pipe into a bellow, which happens to be where the magic happens, as it works as a lever and opens the finger and the thumb grip, enabling the use of the arm. The interesting thing about the idea was that it came when Ben saw a spider while he was lying in bed one day. Ben said, quote, "I was lying in bed and there was a spider in the corner of the room on the ceiling. I remembered that spiders use fluid pressure to activate their legs. Instead of a micro switch, I could use a little bag of fluid in the socket and Sol could squeeze it, and somehow I could get that fluid pressure to close a hand," unquote. The thing about Ben's newly developed tech was that it needed no batteries and could be entirely built out of plastic with a 3D printer. Quote, "By encouraging him to use both arms during this period of early brain development, we believed Sol would become more likely to adopt prosthetics later on. Current prosthetic arm technology for infants dates back to the Victorian era. They are ugly and often rejected early on. I didn't want that to happen to Sol, so I set out to design something that could be worn much earlier," unquote, Ben told the Daily Mail. Sol would then be discharged weeks later from the hospital, and that was when Ben had the chance to test out what he had done. Quote, I got a piece of kitchen sponge I rolled up approximately to the length of his healthy arm and just used one of the dressing I'd seen the nurses at Alder Hey Children's Hospital use, and I managed to get a little bandaged arm to suspend," unquote, Ryan said. Quite incredibly, Saul was able to move his arm within just 10 seconds, much to the joy of Ben, and just like that, he would start what would be a journey of trying to perfect this bionic arm for his son. To further get ahead in the development, Ben turned to a newly opened innovation laboratory at Bangor University to get help. Luckily, they found his idea interesting and decided to help him. At the laboratory, Ben was able to mash up DIY store parts using state-of-the-art 3D printing technology to put together a working bionic arm. The final product was of course quite the catch. It was looking better than the homemade version he had given to Saul at home. With the new arm, Saul has been able to go about his daily activities quite well while his father continued to perfect it. Quote, "For me, the driving force has always been Saul. He is nearly 2 now and loves reading books, but even doing something as simple as turning a page is difficult because the book slides off his knee. Having a bionic arm will allow him to grip the book. It's that simple. At the moment, he wears my prototype occasionally. I won't let him wear it all the time until we have put it through all the correct medical trials and tests. But I know this prosthetic has the potential to revolutionize the lives of millions of children and babies born without limbs in the future," unquote. Ben told the Daily Mail in 2017, his drive to develop a prosthetic arm for his child drove him to the belief that he could use his newly found tech to help other children like Saul from having to live their lives without an arm. It was even one of the reasons why he started a company named Ambionics, and there he worked closely with a designer named Paul Sohi, who worked for a software company named Autodesk, who were particularly popular for the development of the world's first 3D printed sports prosthetic for Paralympic cyclist Denise Schindler. So far, working with Ben on the project has been incredible for Paul, especially since Ben had no prior experience. Paul said, quote, "It's been inspiring to work on this innovative and ambitious project. It is amazing that despite Ben having no background in product design, he's taught himself enough to create something that will not only help his own son Saul, but potentially lots of others facing the same challenges too," unquote. While things appeared to be going really smooth for Ben and his team at Ambiotics, funding seemed to be a major problem for him, and he even had to set up a crowdfunding page online to raise £150 so he was going to be able to get experts with him on the project and also have enough to carry out clinical trials, with the potential of even scaling up and making the technology better and available to several other children suffering from a similar fate like Saul. It is by far incredible what Ben was able to do, and the fact that it even serves as a breakthrough and a useful tool for many other children makes it even greater. Ben's technology has been quite useful as it has helped a boy from Carnarvon and another 16-month-old girl after their NHS-installed prosthetics failed. He also did suffer several setbacks in the journey aside from just investments, as he even once claimed that one of the fathers of those whom he had helped offered to help on the project and he even agreed, but rather unfortunately, the man disappeared after Ben had sent him everything about the project, with the man eventually setting up a rival project which even received funding because the man was from England, unlike him, who was from Wales. In an interview with Institution of Mechanical Engineers, Ben said he was truly grateful for how far he and Saul had come despite all the setbacks, and he hopes to continue improving with his new company. Ben said, quote, "Everyone wants to hear that it was out of love, and of course it was, but it was anger that drove me on. I couldn't let this happen to my son. I wanted him to be a bionic boy, and now here we are," unquote. Surely some fulfillment for Ben also drove him, because he had his invention earn him a place as a finalist for the Nesta's prestigious Investor Prize. If you enjoyed the video, kindly give it a thumbs up, leave a comment in the comment section, and share with others. Thanks for watching, and catch you in the next one.